Hello everyone, I'm here today to do a video for my Reading Around the World project, and that's because I finished all the books that I wanted to finish for Central America. So now I have read a book from every country in Central America. First country I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go roughly from north to south. The first country I'm going to talk to you about is Belize, and for that I read Beka by Edgell. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But yeah, this Belize was one of those countries that was not the easiest to find books for, because it's a relatively small country. But I actually really enjoyed the one that I read. So Beka is about Beka, which is a schoolgirl. I think she's mixed race, but she's considered like a mulatto in the society. It's quite divided into the races. So yeah, she lives there, and she's trying to. So she really wants to go to school, but at the same time she's struggling with it, and she also struggles with lying to her parents. And we also see the turmoil of the time in Belize, because at the time it was under British supervision, but it was trying to be independent. But at the same time there was also a certain movement to integrate Belize into Guatemala, which is the bigger neighboring country, and we can see all of these different things playing along. And I really enjoyed the whole dynamics and the whole story. I felt for Beka. I think that it was quite well constructed. It reminded me a little bit of Nervous Conditions by Citan Garemba, obviously in a completely different place, but the colonial aspects, the school aspects, it all kind of like made sense to me, and I learned a lot about Belize that I didn't know, because I basically knew nothing about Belize. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And then for Guatemala I read I Am Rigoberta Menchú and This Is How My Conscience Was Born. Roughly, I read this in Spanish, so I'll put the Spanish title. That's the one I read, and it was very interesting to read this at the same time as the Belize one, because in the Belize book they were talking about Guatemala taking over Belize, but in the Guatemalan book that I read, it was more about the fight of the indigenous people for their own rights against the Spanish-speaking elite. They were not necessarily Spanish, but this time they were already an independent country with independent people, but the higher range of people, the ones that had all the farms and everything, were Spanish-speaking. And Rigoberta Menchú is an activist that fought for the rights of the indigenous people, and she co-wrote this book when she was 23. It's amazing the amount of things she already did by the time she was 23. She is a very impressive person, and she talks also about the Quiche community, which is the community that she belongs to, and the different cultural things. So she said that there is a very, very strong sense of community, and the sort of leaders of the community are people that are chosen, and her parents were the chosen people in her community, and that's just the title, the chosen people. So it's not like the leader or the chief or whatever, it's just the chosen people. And so her parents did fight a lot for the community, and so they passed on to her that will to make lives better, and she did suffer a lot. Her parents were both killed by the regimes, and some of her brothers as well. So there's a lot of things to unpack. The only thing I will say with this book is that the character, well, not the character, but the way that Rigoberta Menchú tells the story is quite it's not very narrative focused, and it's not very friendly to the reader, and it's explained at the beginning by the person that put this together, that she made the conscious choice of keeping the way that Rigoberta spoke, because she had only known Spanish for 3 years after before this book was published. So there was a certain innocence and a certain tone of phrase in her speaking and in her writing, because she didn't know the language for very long, and the person that put this together wanted that to be reflected into the book. And I understand that choice, but as a reader, it became really, really tedious. And this book actually put me in a reading slump for a while, because I couldn't read a lot of it at the time. And it was not only because the content was quite harsh, but it was because of the way it was written. So yeah, it was not an easy reading experience, but it was the things I learned were very interesting. I don't know if you can hear, there is a huge storm going outside. But yeah, that one I enjoyed some aspects and I enjoyed what I learned, but I didn't enjoy the experience of reading it. So if you have any other recommendations for Guatemala, I would love to know, because that was not my favorite book. Then the next country I'm going to talk about is El Salvador, and actually El Salvador was one of the countries for Invisible Cities, so I read a book for this and made a review for it, so I'll link the review below. But the book I read was Tyrant Memory by Horacio Castellanos Moya, and this book was really interesting as well, and I enjoyed this one as well quite a lot. This one is about a man called the Warlock, that was in power in El Salvador in the 40s, and he was very tyrannical, and we follow that period of time through two main perspectives of the same family. So we focus on this family and the mother of the family, and she has diary entries that she writes while her husband is in jail for writing and expressing opinions against the Warlock. And then we also follow the oldest son of that family, who normally would have been considered like a black sheep. He didn't do much, he didn't have a lot going on in his life, but then he decided to be part of a coup to take away the Warlock, and that didn't go very well, so he's in the run, and so his parts are told mainly in dialogue between this guy and his companion that also was part of the coup and also is trying to run away. I enjoyed the diary entries much more than the dialogue parts, but overall I think that this book made me feel the anxiousness of being under a dictatorship like that, and it also gave me a sense of El Salvador as a country. I was googling places and where things were all the time, and how when this man was talking about running away, they were talking to running away to Guatemala or to Honduras or to Costa Rica. So I was like googling exactly like how long it takes to those places, how far away they are, the relationships between the different places. So I enjoyed this book not only because it was a good book and I enjoyed the story, but also because it made me feel a lot of gaps that I had in my knowledge of Central America. So I was really surprised about that book and I really enjoyed it. For Honduras, I read Reinterpreting the Banana Republic by Darío Euraque, and this one was a non-fiction book about the banana republics. Basically, Honduras is considered a banana republic, and that also in Spanish is often used as a derogatory term for countries that have very unstable political situations, and so this book was trying to show in a more serious note why that insecurity is, and also like why the Banana Republic and not the Coffee Republic or something. And I did learn some things. I learned that Central America was at some point a country. When they first got independence, they decided to do it as one country, and then they separated into different countries that we know today. There was also a discussion about why coffee was not grown in Honduras, even though it's very beneficial in other countries around them, like Costa Rica, which have similar climates. But as a whole, the book was just so academic and so out of my reach. Like, I didn't get much from this book simply because I felt like the things that they were saying, the names they were saying, they didn't resonate with me at all. It was way too academic. And there were a lot of numbers about factory workers throughout the years and banana plantation workers throughout the years that I was just not interested in. So again, if you have any recommendations from an Honduras book that you will like me to read, please let me know, because I would love to read something else. During my research, I had found this book called Points of Light by Guillermo Juscaran, who was much more interesting to me, but unfortunately I couldn't get it anywhere. So I ended up reading that non-fiction book. But yeah, if you know of any other books that you think I might like, please let me know. The next book I'm going to talk about, I read a while ago, so I don't remember very much, but that's from Nicaragua. I read Adios, Muchachos by Sergio Ramirez, and this again is another political memoir about the Sandinista era in Nicaragua, by one of the people that were involved in it. And as far as I remember, it didn't have a big impact on me. It just felt a little bit like every other book about political unrest that I had read. So yeah, I'm not overly in love with this book, and I will also love recommendations for Nicaragua. But yeah, it was also not a bad book. It was just a very not very impactful book. Then for Costa Rica, I read La Loca de Gandoca by Anacristina Rossi, or I think it's translated as The Mad Woman of Gandoca. And this one again was a very interesting one. It was a very short book. I think it was almost like a long short story or a novella, I'm not sure. But this one was about this woman that lived in the area of Gandoca, which is a natural reserve, and there was this Italian company that was trying to build a big tourist resort there in the protected area, and it is justified, as you know, protected areas have to also make money, so tourism is the way to do that without damaging the area too much. And they had like a ecological plan and blah blah blah, but if you look at the details of that plan, it was really not taking into account everything, and this woman was trying to fight the system against this Italian company. And we see how frustrating that is, and how everyone didn't understand why she was trying to do this, and how basically how all these touristic places end up happening in these kind of countries. And I thought it was funny, and it was also very on point, I think, with the commentary, without being overwhelming. And of course, because it was only like 60 pages or something like that, it doesn't get overburdened or over-explanatory, but it's kind of like a joke about how these things work, but also a very sad joke, because that means that all of this nature is being destroyed. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I think it was very on point, and I think I know a lot of people that go to Costa Rica on holidays, so it was also on point for what I knew about Costa Rica. I mean, the only other thing that I know about Costa Rica is that everyone in Costa Rica is incredibly nice. Every Costa Rican that I've met outside Costa Rica, they've all invited me to go to their mother's place, even though I don't know anybody, and they have like this mafia where you meet one Costa Rican and you can stay in any other Costa Rican person's home, because they have that kind of trust in each other, and it's amazing. That's the only thing I knew about Costa Rica, but now, like, yeah, reading this book, I see that spirit as well of like joking but also seriousness into it. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And then finally, the last country in Central America would be Panama. And Panama I read last year for Invisible Cities, and I read El Caballo de Oro by Juan David Morgan, or The Golden Horse, which was about the building of the Panama Canal. So in this book there is no canal yet, so the boats have to go down from the US into Panama, and then again they cross by train, and then from the other side of Panama to normally San Francisco or something. And in this book there is, I will link the vlog that I made back then down below as well. But in this book I learned a lot about the building of the Panama Canal and the people that live there, and you know, because many of them died building the canal, and also building the train rails that went from one side to the other until the canal was built. And also there is this love triangle surrounding that area with a boat captain and a woman that lives in Panama, and yeah, there is a love triangle that I particularly didn't need, so that took away from the book a little bit. It was very cheesy in that sense, but the historical parts about how all these things were built and how difficult it was, because there was a lot of swampy area there, so transporting the materials was very difficult, and a lot of people working on this died because of different illnesses and stuff like that. So that was really interesting, I think. And I know that Lorraine from Reading with Lorraine read another non-fiction book about Panama that she really enjoyed, so maybe I will read that at some point, because that's the part of this book that I like the most, the parts about the history, the connections with the US, and why Panama is so connected to the US as compared to other countries in Central America, and all of these aspects. That was my favorite part of this book. So if there is a non-fiction that comes recommended about that, I think I might pick it up at some point. But yeah, those are all of the books that I have read from Central America. Let me know your recommendations, as always. I think there is a lot more to be said and a lot more to be read, because some of the things that I've read from these countries have been amazing, and also I feel like there is a lot of very distinct writing in the different parts, and these distinct histories in the different countries of Central America that maybe I didn't realize as much as when I was doing this project. And reading some of these books at the same time gave me even more that feeling that all these countries are kind of interconnected, but with their own distinct history and customs and relationships. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part of it, and I hope you enjoy this video. The next one is going to be some of the Caribbean. The Caribbean is a lot of islands, so I think I'm going to do like the north part and the south part of the Caribbean separately, but that's what's coming. And yeah, until next video, bye.